Good morning, Year 8. Thank you for all those that are submitting their work properly onto the system when they complete it. I do appreciate it. I know I'm not always getting back to you on that, but I promise you I am looking, and I can see that some of you are working really, really hard, setting out your work really, really well in your books. So thank you for that. I know some of you find it a little bit more difficult to actually submit the work, and maybe haven't quite got your head around the technology, but just keep trying, keep working through, and we'll make the best we can of the situation that we're in. Today we're still on algebra at the moment, though we're going to move off that next week. We're going to look at something slightly different from solving equations, which is what you have been doing. We're going to look at substitution into an expression. Now you'll see this word expression written in the worksheet here, and I had used it myself the other week. An expression is just like a sum written on the page, but unlike a sum you might have done in primary school, it can now have letters in it as well. So we're all used to the idea of a sum, like 3 plus 4 is a sum, but we also now know that A plus B is also a sum. Okay, and these are called in maths expressions. Okay, they're not called equations. They only become equations when you put an equal sign and then there's another expression on the other side. Okay, so something like A plus B equals 7, written like that, the whole of that there is called an equation. But that bit there is called an expression, and incidentally, so is that bit there. So 7, just writing 7 is actually writing an expression. It's important you understand what that is, an expression. Now, if you've got numbers in an expression, then it works out to an answer. So 3 plus 4 is obviously 7. But if I just write A plus B, then it doesn't really have an answer. It doesn't have a value. Unless, of course, you're told what A and B are actually equal to. And that's what today's lesson's about. It's about having some expressions, 60 of them in total in this exercise, and then, so here's the expressions. Can't do anything with them as they're written down. Can't find their value unless I'm actually told what the individual letters are worth. And that's what you're going to be doing today. You're going to have some expressions, you're going to be told what the individual values are worth, and you're going to use that information to find the value of the expression. Let me do a few for you from the first exercise. This will allow me to show you how I want you to set these out as well. So let's do this here. If I do that there, okay, I'll just do the first couple to get you going, and then perhaps I'll do some of the later ones as well. So examples, okay. So if I was answering these questions, the first thing I would do is I would write down what the value of each of the letters is going to be in this question. Remember, it can change next time, but for this particular question, those are the values that we've been asked to use. Okay, and we now have to find the value of each of the expressions. So question 1, here we go. 2x. Okay, well, 2x means 2 times x, so it's going to be 2 times whatever x is, which is 12. So it's 2 times 12, which is 24. Incidentally, if you are able, I would like you to try and do these questions without using a calculator. Let me do question 2 for you. 3y. So in maths that means 3 times whatever y is equal to, which in this question is 8. 3 times 8 is also 24. So the value of 2x in the first one is 24. The value of 3y in the second one is also 24. Let's skip to some of the later ones. Let's have a look at, for example, let's have a look at question 20. I don't know why I chose 20. I'm just skipping around. So question, I think it's because it's got a Z in it and it's got a fraction-y thing in it. So I can show you this. 7Z over 8. Okay, so what does that mean? That means 7 times whatever Z is, which is 16 in this case, sorry, divided by 8, like that. Okay, well, I'm going to work my way down the page here. Now, 7 times 16 divided by 8 can be done with a calculator, obviously, or it can be done by working out 7 times 16 and then dividing the answer by 8, which you could do, but you might need to do a bit of working down the side of your page to do that. Or if you're really clever, you can do some cancelling down of the fraction here. This is something I think we did in a lesson, when I had that cover lesson when we were doing fractions and we were finding equivalent fractions, simplifying fractions. If there's a number on the bottom and a number on the top which have a common factor, a number that goes into both of them, you can divide both those numbers by that factor. In other words, 8 and 16 are both in the 8 times table. So I can replace the 8 by 1 and the 16 by 2, like that. Okay, and that then leads me to 7 times 2, which I can do in my head is 14, divided by 1 is still 14. However you get the answer to that, you should end up with 14 at the end of it. Right, I'm going to skip down now to some of the really later questions. So let's go, I don't know, I just pick one. So I'll stick with the first ones because I've got my X, Y and Z. It changes to P, Q and R with different values for the second half of the exercise. Let me do one from down here somewhere. So let's have a go, for example, at question 28. So the later questions start to introduce plus and minus signs in the work. Okay, so you get something like 50 minus 4y. Okay, but it's no different. In your first line of working, all you should do is write it out without the letter anymore. So that's 50 take away 4 times 8. Remember, y is 8. Then you have to be a little bit careful now because, and you will have done this last year, in maths we have something called BIDMAS. Let me just write that word for you, BIDMAS. And the idea of the word is it tells you which bits of the calculation you should do first if there's more than one thing to do. So like in this one, there's 2 things to do. I've got a take away to do, and I've got a multiplication to do as well. 2 things. How do I know which one to do first? Well, I consult my word, and I'm looking for, see, each of the letters in the word stand for something you might have to do. Brackets. I stands for indices, and that's those little numbers like squares and cubes that you get. So if you saw, for example, that in a sum, you would do that before you did any multiplication, division, addition or subtraction. That's 9, for example. But you wouldn't do it before you did brackets. Brackets come first. So for this particular one here, the M comes before the A, so I do the multiplication first. Leave the 50 take away alone. And that gets me to 50 take away 32, which gives me an answer of 18. When you do get onto the second half of the exercise, if you get that far, remember you only got to spend an hour on this, you will start to see some of those indicey things, like Q with a little 2 there, which means Q squared, or Q times Q, which in this case is going to be 9 times 9, which is going to be 81. So that's 81. I've given an answer there. Okay, so you'll just need to be a little bit more careful doing these, using BIDMAS, following the rules of maths. So there are 60 to do. I don't know how far you'll get, okay, but if you could just turn in your work at the end, maybe send me a little message to let me know how far you got. That'll help me to know whether I need to set some more, give you some more time on this tomorrow, or if we can move on or not. Okay, so that's your work for today. It's to work through in your lesson time as many of those as you can manage. setting them out the same way as I have here in my examples. Have a good day, everybody. Bye for now.